Most gardeners, they obsess over how fast their compost breaks down, and almost none of them actually test what it does to their soil. That's the mistake. They chase heat, steam, and, well, bragging rights about a pile hitting 150 degrees. But then they wonder why their beds still struggle with structure, moisture retention, or micronutrient balance. Compost speed is not the same thing as soil performance. If you care about yields, nutrient density, and plant resilience, you need to understand what cold composting and hot composting actually deliver. If you're serious about growing better food instead of just making garden waste disappear, subscribe to the channel now. Farmlogic is about results in real soil, not theory. And today we're going to settle the cold versus hot compost debate, based on what actually happens in raised beds, field rows, and even hydro systems. So let's start with what most people get wrong about hot composting. Hot composting is treated like the gold standard because it's fast and it kills pathogens and weed seeds. And yes, when managed properly, it absolutely does. A properly built hot pile, roughly 1 cubic meter in size with a carbon to nitrogen ratio around 25 to 30 to 1, adequate moisture at about 50 to 60%, and regular turning will climb into the 130 to 160 degree Fahrenheit range within days. That heat is driven by thermophilic bacteria breaking down nitrogen-rich inputs like fresh manure and green plant material. In my own beds, when I've built hot piles with poultry manure, chopped greens and shredded dry stalks, I've had finished compost in about 4 to 6 weeks. That compost looks dark and uniform. It smells earthy. It's clean. When I apply it at about 1 inch thick over a 4 by 8 raised bed and lightly incorporate it into the top 3 inches of soil, crops like cabbage and tomatoes respond quickly. Early nitrogen availability is noticeably stronger than with slow, cold-finished compost. But here's the trade-off most people don't talk about. High heat burns through carbon. You lose mass as carbon dioxide. You reduce the diversity of fungi and mesophilic organisms that operate at lower temperatures. And if you're not careful with moisture and turning, you also lose nitrogen as ammonia gas when piles get too hot or too alkaline. In one season, I compared 2 beds side by side. One received hot compost that had peaked at 155 degrees Fahrenheit and been turned every 3 days. The other received cold compost that sat for 8 months without ever exceeding 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Both were applied at roughly 20 pounds per 4 by 8 bed. The hot compost bed had faster early growth. The cold compost bed had noticeably better soil tilth and moisture retention mid-season. By harvest, yields were almost identical, but the cold compost bed required less irrigation. Now let's talk about what cold composting actually does differently. Cold composting happens when you build a pile and mostly leave it alone. Temperatures hover between 70 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Decomposition is slower. You're relying on mesophilic bacteria, fungi, earthworms, and a wider soil food web. It may take 6 months to a year, depending on material size and climate. The advantage is biological complexity. Fungal networks remain more intact. Carbon compounds are broken down more gradually. Humic substances develop more slowly and, often more stably. In long-term soil building, that really matters. In one of my no-dig beds, I layered shredded cardboard, kitchen scraps, dry leaves, and a thin layer of soil between each layer, roughly maintaining that same 30 to 1 carbon to nitrogen balance. But I never turned it. I simply kept it moist. After 9 months, what I harvested wasn't just compost. It was a fungal-rich material with visible white mycelium threads. When incorporated lightly into the top 2 inches of soil, lettuce and spinach showed improved leaf turgor and stayed upright longer during heat waves compared to beds amended with fast, hot compost. So, which method delivers superior soil nutrients? Well, it depends on what you mean by nutrients. If you're talking about immediately plant-available nitrogen, hot compost often wins in the short term. Thermophilic breakdown mineralizes nitrogen more aggressively. For heavy feeders like corn or brassicas, that can make a difference, especially in nutrient-hungry soils. But if you're talking about long-term nutrient cycling, microbial diversity, and stable organic matter that buffers pH and improves cation exchange capacity, cold compost often edges ahead. It builds soil resilience. And here's where measurement becomes critical. Most gardeners guess at compost readiness by color or smell. That's just not enough. Temperature tracking tells you whether your pile truly went thermophilic or not. When I run hot piles, I use a long stem thermometer to monitor internal heat daily during the first 2 weeks. If it doesn't reach at least 131 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 consecutive days, I know weed seeds may survive. If it spikes above 160 degrees, I turn it immediately to prevent sterilization and nitrogen loss. I personally use a heavy-duty compost thermometer similar to the RioTemp model. It's long enough to reach the core of a 3-foot pile and sturdy enough to survive repeated use. If you're serious about hot composting, a proper thermometer isn't optional. I've linked the one I use in the description so you can check it out. It's not flashy, but it tells you exactly what's happening inside your pile. And honestly, that data changes outcomes. Now let's bring hydroponics into this conversation because this is where people get confused. You don't dump compost into a hydro system. But compost quality still matters if you're making compost teas or extracts. Hot compost that's been overheated can have reduced microbial diversity, which affects the biology of your teas. Cold compost, especially fungal-dominant material, often produces richer microbial extracts when aerated for about 24 hours with a small amount of molasses. In a side-by-side test, I brewed 2 5-gallon batches of compost tea, one from hot compost, one from cold compost. Both were aerated for 24 hours with 1 tablespoon of unsulfured molasses per gallon. The tea from cold compost produced more visible biofilm in the reservoir and, in my experience, better root hair development in hydro lettuce rafts. The difference wasn't dramatic, but root density improved. Now let's correct another common myth. People say hot compost destroys nutrients. That's exaggerated. Most macronutrients like phosphorus and potassium remain in the pile. What you lose primarily is carbon mass and potentially nitrogen if mismanaged. The key word is mismanaged. Proper moisture and turning reduce losses. On the other hand, people claim cold compost is always superior because it's more natural. That's also misleading. Cold piles absolutely can harbor pathogens or weed seeds if inputs include contaminated manure or invasive weeds. If you're composting poultry litter or dealing with persistent weed seeds, controlled heat is your ally. So here's my practical recommendation based on years of testing. If you're growing high-demand crops in a small backyard garden and need compost quickly for spring planting, build at least 1 properly managed hot pile. Aim for a 3-foot cube, layer browns and greens evenly, chop materials smaller than 2 inches, keep moisture like a wrung-out sponge, and monitor temperature daily for the first 2 weeks. At the same time, maintain a slower, fungal-rich, cold pile in the background. Use more woody material, shredded cardboard and leaf mold. Let it sit, turn it minimally. Harvest it after 6 to 12 months for perennial beds, fruit trees, and long-term soil building. In raised beds, I often blend the two. I'll apply about 1/2 inch of hot compost and 1/2 inch of cold compost together before planting. That combination gives me early nutrient availability and long-term soil conditioning. If I had to choose only one method for pure soil regeneration over multiple seasons, I would lean slightly toward cold composting for its structural and biological benefits. But if weed pressure and time are major constraints, hot composting becomes essential. The truth is, superior soil nutrients aren't about temperature alone. They're about management, measurement, and matching compost type to crop demand. Composting isn't a religion, it's a tool. And like any tool, you use the right version for the job. If this breakdown helped you think more critically about your compost system, subscribe to the Farmlogic channel. We don't chase trends here. We test them in real soil, real beds, and real growing systems. Share this video with another serious gardener who still thinks hotter automatically means better. And check the description for the compost thermometer link if you're ready to start measuring instead of guessing. Growing better food starts with understanding what's actually happening in your soil.